Recording in progress. Good.
Yes.
So, thank you very much. So if I'm speaking too fast, if my accent is not good, or if you have difficulty to hearing, don't hesitate to send a message or give me some feedback. I will set up at some point a session with Ask Light, so you can also interact with me and ask questions. So it will be easier for me like that. First, I will just introduce myself, but it has already been done. So I work for Approach as the human-centric security service lead. I have something like 30 years of experience in IT, amongst which 20 in information security, and I'm also a psychologist for a bit more than a decade now. I have a bachelor in IT, MA in psychology, and also doing a PhD in psychology, specifically on all the issue about trust and vigilance on the internet. And I have also a long list of certification for security, but that's not really interesting. As I said, I would like to have some interactions here. So you can use all your laptop if you want with the link that you see, or even your phone. You can use the QR code. There is nothing fishy there. It won't corrupt your phone or do anything. At least you have to trust me on that. It will allow you to play some game, give me some feedback also, and share information with others. I think it should be working now. I will just see if you can connect. I see it's 7, 8. Yes, people are connecting. That's great. So just to warm up a bit and see if the system works, I have a really quick question. Do you know what is the cybercrime annual revenue worldwide? Meaning how much money all the hackers in the world make in 1 year? I see people 6, 7. It's a lot of money. Huh? It's really impressive. I think that I have most people who have answered. Good. So 2% were white. 1.5 trillion dollars. Just for a comparison, it's 3 times the amount of money that is made by drugs in the world. So it's really a really good market for the hackers. And it's even best for them because they don't have to leave their seat. They're well protected in their country because most of the time they don't try to hack people in their own country to avoid being annoyed by the police. So that's why it's the cybersecurity month, not a day, not a week, but a month. It's because it's really something growing, and we are all concerned by it. If you look at the root cause of the data leakage, that is when companies are losing information that they shouldn't share with other people. It's come from the data breach incident report from Verizon from this year. It's an exercise that's made mostly in the US by Verizon with the FBI, where they go through all the incidents that they discovered and they try to understand how it happened. Social engineering, so the fact that we trick people to give us information or to do whatever we want, account for 32% of it. And the human error, I don't like the term human error, but so they say it. It's basically when we do something we shouldn't do, but it's totally involuntary. It's 16, so it's already the biggest cause is social engineering. That's number 1, and human error is the third, the fourth one. But it's already account for 48%. But if you look at it in the detail, in 85% of the case, there was a human element that was involved beside the hacker itself. So I heard the weakest link. I really don't like it, and we will go there. But they target humans. Why? Because we have many things to do, and cybersecurity is probably not one of them. So we are not always aware or always vigilant, and they use that against us. So just maybe also something to notice. I don't know your budget. I work with many different companies in Belgium, with some with really high stakes. If 85% of the breach involve a human element, do we have 85% of the budget for cybersecurity that is spent on humans? No. Most of the time, if we reach 3%, that means that you are among the best. In many companies, in fact, cybersecurity awareness is not yet an issue. So something to... Before we go there, I have a question for you. What are the 3 biggest cyber risks for your enterprise today? We'll talk a bit about it, but for you, what do you think is really the biggest risk? I think you can use the application to share the information. Do you see it, or I don't know? It seems it doesn't work. I don't see at least people. Maybe I have to... Okay, let's skip it maybe for the moment. So the first tip I will give you is that you have to focus on behavior. We are in the cybersecurity awareness week or months, and in fact, to be honest, we don't care about awareness. I don't say that it's not something that is necessary, but that's not your goal. When you talk about awareness, everybody knows that if you don't wear your seat belt and you have an accident, it will be quite dangerous, but people still do it. People who smoke know that smoking is bad for their health. People do a lot of things by knowing that what they do is not the best thing to do. It doesn't change their behavior for it changes the behavior of some people, but not all of them, of course. So somewhere we need to go a bit beyond the buzzword that is security awareness. What we want to change is behavior, so people create less risk. When you think about it, we have awareness. Of course, some people will also talk sometime about education. We educate people, which is what we do at school, but the same thing. It's not because you have been educated about something that you will do this thing all the time. I have 3 kids, I don't know for you, but they know a lot of things. I teach them to do a lot of things, but sometimes they don't do it because they're tired, because they don't have time, because they don't want to. There is difference between what you have been taught and what you do. Some people will also say, and I'm talking a lot about it, that you need to change the culture of your company to be sure that people feel concerned about it. And it's a big part of what will influence also the behavior. We tend to do the same as the other people, but the thing is, it's not also the only determinant that will make you behave in such a way. And some people sometimes they say, oh, we measure the attitudes of the people. They say that they believe cybersecurity is important. Yeah, but if you believe cybersecurity is important, the likelihood that you will do something that is cyber safe, like having a long password or paying attention to all your emails, it's like a flip of a coin. It's 50% of chance, so it doesn't change a lot. It's a good indicator that at least you believe it's something you should do, but that doesn't mean that you will do so. There is plenty of things that you need to focus on, and the first thing is behavior. And when you do that, you also need to measure things that are related to the behavior. That's saying, do you think it's important? Will you do it? No. Did you do it? Did you click on the link? Did you change the password? You need to measure the exact behavior. So, or the only thing that you will do is spend money for something that will have no result at the end or very little results. So you need to be sure that. The second thing that you need to do is set your priorities. The reason for that is quite easy. Yeah, no, the link is there. You can maybe share with me what are your priorities for the things that are important for you in cybersecurity, if it works. Yes. Test of strategic info run somewhere. I see data breach, data breaches. Maybe I can. You see all those things that they're important. The thing is, the people that you hire to work for you or with you, you didn't hire them to be security specialists. And if we have to train them about all the aspects of cybersecurity, uh, they will be exhausted because the only thing that they will do for the coming weeks and months, and it will be that. Because I said, you need to repeat all the time. I had a teacher at the university. They said the three keys of education is repetition, repetition, and repetition. And indeed, the only thing I do with my kids all the time, and if you have some, it's repeating myself. And the thing is, when I do that, um, I'm just getting bored, but also they don't listen to me anymore. Because when we always send the same signal, there is this thing that we call habituation that makes it less difficult, more difficult to get the signal. When I take my shirt in the morning and I put it on my shoulders, on my back, maybe it can be scratchy, but after a few seconds, a few minutes, I won't feel it anymore. My brain will totally ignore the signal because it's a repetition of the signal. You say, okay, I get it, forget about it. Meaning that when I need to train people, I need to repeat, but I cannot repeat the same thing all the time. So it's a bit difficult, and it creates a lot of, it requires a lot of energy to create different content, message in different ways. And if I have to do that for all the things that are important in cybersecurity, it won't work. So I need to set my priorities and say, okay, that's the first thing I want them to learn, and I start with that. And if the first plan was maybe in January I will work on phishing, in February I will do the password, in March talking about the clear desk, in April about the badges and all those things, and say, yes, that's already a good plan, it's just once per month. In fact, a more realistic plan will be in January I will talk about phishing, and not too long because my people have something else to do than just following this thing. In February, just a reminder again, phishing, second way, and I can start to talk about physical security a bit. And in March, password again. So I need to repeat. Here I repeat 4 times. Some studies seems to indicate that before people memorize the thing on the long term, you need to repeat at least 7 times. I think they're quite optimistic because even for myself, I need to repeat sometimes 20 times before I get it. And there is, you need to increase the time between the repetition. So it's a bit complex to put all that in an agenda if you have 20 points. So let's start with 2 or 3 points, selecting what is the most important for you. When you're talking about data leakage and things like this, nowadays it starts most of the time with a phishing email that will allow the hackers to drop a payload. Well, payload is a program that will allow them to take control of your machine, or even worse, to encrypt everything and ask you for some money to get your data back. The third tips, it's watch your mouth. So I use a title, it's a bit unusual, let's say, but I have also there a little question for you. You see here, we have test or exercise, oefening or exercice in French. What do you prefer to go? You prefer to have a test or to have an exercise? If I say I make phishing tests, it implies that I may fail and that it will be bad for me, because when I pass a test, most of the time I want to succeed. And the thing is, with a phishing exercise, we want you to fail somewhere, because it's not failing, it's learning. When you click on the link, you discover that something can trick you, and you will learn something and you will improve. It has an impact on people. And if you look at the slide application, there's another term that we use, and it has been used before, is the weakest link. So what do you want to be, the weakest link or the last line of defense? I think that I already know the answer. I see some people answering, but of course we all prefer to be the last line of defense. If you say that you're the weakest link, you can even wonder, why should I care training, or why should I care doing anything if I'm the weakest link anyway? The thing is, there is some people who say that, saying because it's a common expression, but it has an impact. It's the fact that it's bad of failing, or at the same time, we know that it's normal behavior. People who click on phishing link, they are not, another term that I sometimes, repeated offender. They click multiple times on phishing link. They are not bad people. They don't want to do it. It just happened. Most of those people, they have to read 100, 150. I heard some 500 email per day. So if you have to be really, really focused on all your emails, it will be just exhausting. It's important to recognize that and just say, okay, let's train people. If you take any of those technology that we use to protect, again, hackers, if they are not trained, if they are not well configured, they're totally useless. When we hire people, we need to train them a bit to be able to face all those attacks and all those social engineering technique that will be used by the hackers to get to the company. And it's not a big thing to do. It just, you need a minimum of training. So pay attention to the word that you use. The thing also, when you go to buy a car, you see a really nice car and you have the sales guy coming to you and he won't say, do you want to buy this car? You probably never heard a salesman doing that, or he's a really bad salesman. What he will do, it's probably say this, in which color would you like this car? Because when it does that, it makes you think about the fact that it will be your car and you already picked the color. So it doesn't give you a choice. By asking this question, in fact, it implies that you will have you want the car. And it's something that we can use a lot to help people when you communicate about things. It's used what we call implicit. Could you do this for me today or maybe tomorrow? Or how can I help you solve this problem? Just by asking the question, I already implicitly say, you will do it. It's something, I told you I have 3 kids. It's something that I use, when my smallest daughter was a bit younger. She's 7 now, but when she was 3, it was difficult. She needed to go to bed and she never wanted to go to bed. And then when I say it's time to go to bed, the only thing I was hearing was, no, I don't want to go. And then I give her a choice and say, hey, will you come to bed with Dino or with Bunny? And I had the 2 puppet in my hands. And she said, oh, today with Dino. The thing is, it implies that she's going to bed. Implicit will help you also convince people to go through those training, etc. But you need to think that it will be happening and frame the question like that. It's one of the things that you can use to help. Is it okay? Am I not going too far? Um, trying to see. Nope. Context is everything. When you do whatever we are doing, there is always a context. It's maybe day or night. I can be speaking in English or in Dutch. I could work from my office or at home or really at the office. I could be in a hurry or totally relaxed because it's a cool day. I could be in a blue room or in a orange room or a gray one. I could be watching something happen or doing it. I could use Word or icons. Um, Plenty of things. I could do it live or through the Zoom like we do now. The thing is, all those things have an impact on what we do. You probably already heard that if students um, reading their books and doing their summary in a gray room or a orange room, they will have better results if they pass the exam in a room that has the same color, because the context is the same, they can memorize better. And the thing is, it's not the only thing that we will change. Um, when we have the when we learn in a context. If I'm driving my car and the lights become red, I take my feet and I press on the brake and I stop. If on a bicycle, I will use my hand. If there is something that comes really rapidly and I need to brake in emergency, I will do exactly the same without thinking about it. The same trigger will start a different outcome, a different action, just because of the context. You don't have to think about it. So it's really important when you train people to train them in context. I don't think that there is anybody in this room that learned how to drive by just reading a book on driving, or that someone learned how to ride a bicycle by just watching people. You need to do the job to become good at it. Meaning that when you try to train people, you need to train them on the job in the context. That's why most of the time people like me and people in security, we like to use all the phishing exercises, because we are training people by sending them email in the normal context and we see how they react. We cannot get closer from their normal context than we do. While when we do training sessions or other thing, it's always a bit remote and disconnected. And so we're not sure that it will trigger the same behavior at the right time. That's why now we have this virtual reality thing that makes it easier to train people in some context that are close to the reality without taking the risk. The thing about context, it's that sometimes it's just easier to change the context to get what we want. I don't know for you, but when I was younger, nobody was supposed to, it was not mandatory to wear seatbelt in a car. And then it became mandatory. There was a lot of communication, the press, and the police was also stopping people just to be sure that they were wearing the seatbelt. And the thing is, if we talk about awareness, everybody knows that if there is an accident and that you wear your seatbelt, you will be probably lucky to wear the seatbelt and you will get less damage than if you don't. So we are all aware that it's a good thing. Still, in a study that was made in 2007 in Sweden by Friedman, they discovered that 82% of the people were wearing their seatbelt. So one person out of five was not wearing their seatbelt. What is interesting there is that if you look a bit closer to the numbers, 98.9%, so nearly 100% of the people were wearing the seatbelt if they had this little noise and also the red light in their car doing beep, beep, beep when they don't have the seatbelt and they're driving. So just changing that, adding a little signal somewhere, was more efficient than all the communication probably, because it's just annoying and you want it to stop. So sometimes just changing the context will be a good incentive than just education or other stuff. The thing also is that when we talk about context, sometimes we try to have something that is frictionless. Frictionless is something, it's a term that is used by people who work in behavioral economics. It's basically the idea that if I have something that I need to move, if I put wheels or a carpet beyond it, it's easy to push. It's easier to push, so it's more likely that I will do it. Here you see, we have an example. People put a control on the street. What did the users? They find the path of least resistance. So if you want something to happen, you need to make it seamless. I don't know if you remember 20 years ago when the internet started to be something that was a bit more let's say, usual than it was in the 60s or 70s when it was something just for the scientists. There was this thing that was called Yahoo, and then Google came, and Yahoo had a quite complicated interface, and Google came just with one thing, a bar in which you had to put a term in it, and you could find automatically what you want. I think nobody talks about Yahoo anymore, and Google is where they are just because they understood that you need to find a path of least resistance, make it easy. There is plenty of technique for that. You can even make it fun. You see, you put those baskets for the recycle bin, the compost, etc., and you can play and throw your thing there, like if you were playing basketball or something like this. It works really well. There is a few examples. You have also, maybe you already saw the videos on the internet of what they call the piano stairs, where you can when you have an escalator and the stairs, and every time someone is walking on the stairs, make a note, so you can basically play music with the stairs. When they put that in place, people were using the stairs instead of the escalator, so it's good. The only thing is that due to the habituation, some people get bored after a few days, and I think after 4 or 5 days, people were back on the escalator. Not all of them, but most of them were back. So you need also to change it regularly. But it's a good way to start something. My last tip is that in the first tip, I say you have to focus on habits, on behavior. And now I would say that you need to go even a bit further. It's creating habits. Maybe a little test. Are you a man or woman of habits? And it's quite simple. When you hear the sound of your phone announcing that there is a new message, what do? You mostly take your phone immediately to read it. That will be probably me. Most of the time, you will just finish what you are doing and you will read your message. Or you do nothing and you will do it later when you have time, really. Or you don't read your messages. It's always bad news. So we have a few person, it's a few person that are like me, a bit addicted to their phone, and we take it immediately. It's become, in fact, an habit. There is two kind of way of learning or action that we can learn. We have what we call the goal-directed actions, and I will keep it that quite simple. I will try. It's basically you enter in a room, it's dark, you want to have more light, that's your goal, and you see there is a switch to switch on the light. That's what we call the stimulus or the trigger. It's an opportunity. So what you will do, it's switch on the light, and you get your outcome, so you have more light. The thing is, if when you switch on the light, the light doesn't switch on and it stays dark, and you come back into this room a few times, you will not use the switch anymore because you know it doesn't happen. That's what we call a goal-directed action. It dies when the outcome dies with it. An habit is something totally different because an habit, you have just the stimulus. You don't need to have the motivation. You hear the ding of your phone. What do? You take your phone and you watch it. And most of the time, the outcome is that, yes, I have a message from my friends, or maybe you receive another spam or a message you didn't want to see. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. The thing is, if whatever the outcome is, you will continue to take your phone as long as you will hear the music or the sound that comes with it. It becomes really an habit. You even have some time to fight it. When you have people saying, I will finish what I'm doing, sometimes I do that, but I know that I have to make a kind of effort to doing because it became the reflex. It's really Pavlovian somewhere. The thing with the dog and the little bell. That's exactly what happened. The question is, how do you make an habit and not a goal-directed action? And it has all to do with what we call variable ratio outcome. When you create an habit, it starts with a goal-directed action. Let's say that I'm leaving my computer. I want people to lock the computer, so I press the key Windows and L on my PC, and I could have a reinforcement, a little message saying thank you with a little music. And the next time I will do that, I will get nothing. The third time, nothing. The fourth time, yes, I have a reinforcement. The fifth time, nothing. The sixth time, seven. It's if the outcome is variable, the reinforcement, the reward is variable, I will be looking for it all the time. I will be looking for this reward. And so even if it's not there, I will continue because I know that it can happen at some point. And then I create an habit. And by doing that, you ensure that even if people are not motivated at some point, they don't have to think about it. The real definition of an habit in terms of psychology is that it doesn't use the what we call the prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain, that is the decision center. It's not used anymore. You hear the sound, you do the action. You wake up, you press the button. That's as simple as that. And that's really good for us because it ensures that the behavior will be repeated all the time, or most of the time, and also it's less tiring, exhausting for the user. So somewhere, if you know that you can put that in place, you will have people behaving in a safe way without thinking about it, and it will be easier for everybody. I think I'm right here on time. Let me present myself. So a little summary, because we need to repeat. The first thing, focus on behaviors. It's just not about knowledge. You need to be able to see what are the behavior that you expect from people. Just a little thing also, always try to be positive in what you ask people. It's something that we use also with kids. If you say to a kid, don't do something, it's probably the first thing that they will do. It's exactly what you ask them not to do. And so to always try to focus on a positive behavior. So not clicking on a link, it's probably a bad message, but it's pay attention or watch this or report. Then once you have identified all your behaviors, set your priorities, set your goal, repeat your message, change the message a bit, repeat again, be consistent, be relentless about it. The third thing is the words are magic, use them wisely. Pick the good words. Always be benevolent, always be watching out for people, trying to be positive about it. People, if you hire people and you believe they're bad people, you probably made a mistake by hiring them. The people you work with, they're good people, they're there to make their job. Just consider that, and use positive words also around it. Context is everything. You need to educate people in a context. You also to improve sometimes the context to make it frictionless, to make it easier or even fun. It's always better to do things for fun. And then try to foster habits, and that's easier than the rest because you reward behaviors randomly, meaning you don't have to say always that's good, just say it sometime and change a bit the reward, make it, most people, they will like things like thank you, maybe a coffee, chocolate, other people saying, yeah, it's good what you did. Social rewards can be used also. And just by doing that from time to time, you will create really rapidly an habit. That's all for me.